Okay, so let's extend our knowledge and understanding of harmony by having a look at a new kind of triad. In the last lesson we learnt about the major triad, which is built from 3 ingredients taken from the major scale. That's the 1st, 3rd and 5th degrees of the major scale, this time starting on C, and so this is our major triad. Just the same way, there are triads that are built from minor scales, and those are the ones that we'll be having a look at in this lesson. So in this lesson, we'll look at the minor triad. People often talk about major and minor as being quite good ways to think about the character of music, and while I don't want to say major music always sounds happy and minor music always sounds sad, I think there's a bit of truth in the idea that music that is based on major scales and using major triads tends to be more upbeat and positive, and maybe music that's based more on minor scales and minor chords or triads, that tends to be music that's a little bit more darker in colour and perhaps a little bit more emotionally deep. Perhaps we tend to use minor scales and minor chords when we want to sort of express perhaps the more difficult emotions that we come up against in our lives. So say we wanted to build one of these minor triads, well, how do we do it? Well, it's very, very simple and very similar to the way we built a major triad. If you remember, one way of constructing a major triad was to take the 1st, 3rd and 5th degrees of a major scale. So this is our C major scale here, and we took the 1st, 3rd and 5th scale degrees. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing if we want to build a minor triad, except that instead of starting with a major scale, we're going to start with a minor scale. So just to be simple, we'll choose the minor scale that doesn't use any black notes. So this is the one that goes between A and A. So that's our A natural minor scale. Now, if we want to build a minor triad, so we want to use some of the notes of that scale together, we're going to do exactly the same thing and take the 1st, 3rd and 5th scale degrees, the 1st, 3rd and 5th steps of the scale, and put them together into a triad. So in this particular scale, we start on an A, so that would be our 1st degree of the scale, and then we go up to a C, and that's the 3rd step of the scale, so that's going to be our 3rd degree of the scale, and then finally the 3rd ingredient is the 5th step of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And we're just building the scale in exactly the same way, using the pattern of tones and semitones that we've already looked at. So hopefully it's not too difficult at this point to work out how we build these scales, and so if we know the scales, we can build the triads on top of them. So here is our Ace A minor triad, comprising of an A, a C and an E. Now let's just have a listen to those 3 notes together, and hopefully we'll hear that they do have quite a different character to the major triad. For me, it's just a little bit darker in colour. I'm going to play you an A major triad, so this involves a C sharp. We're going to add, and this is an A major triad. For me, that sounds brighter and a little bit more sort of, positive, and then the A minor triad, perhaps a little bit more contemplative. I mean, it's very difficult to describe these things, such small things as chords, but I think you'll see there is a difference between the major and the minor triad. Just to prove that this works for other notes as well, let's build a minor scale starting on a different note. Let's go with D this time. So we're looking for a D minor triad. So we're going to obviously start on a D. And if we remember the way that the D minor scale goes, and obviously if these scales, you're wondering where on earth am I getting these scales from, just go back and have a look at the videos that look at how to build these scales, because it's a very simple pattern that we need to learn of the order of tones and semitones that helps us to build these scales. But if we remember, the D minor scale starts D, E, F, G, A. And so from that group of notes we can take out an F to be our 3rd step and our middle note of our triad, and finally the A, which is the 3rd and final ingredient. And let's put all those together to make this D minor triad. Here we go. And again, this triad has that sort of slightly darker quality. Now, just the same way as building major triads, there is actually a second way, which some people find a little bit easier than working directly with the scales, and that's to count in semitones from the starting note to build up the ingredients of a particular chord. Now, in this particular example, we need to again make two steps, because obviously all of our triads have three ingredients, so we need to work out the distance between the first and second notes of the chord and the second and third. Now, in minor scales, we make a small jump first of 3 semitones and follow that up with a larger jump of 4 semitones. So that's the other way round from building a major triad. And let's just prove that works. So let's go and build build a D minor triad again, but using this other method. So we're going to start on a D, and we're going to go up 3 semitones. There's our 1, 2, 3 semitones. That gets us to F. So that's our first step. And then going from the F, we're just going to count up 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gets us from the F to the A. So there we go. This together, these 3 notes together, again, give us our D minor triad. So again, if you ever see music, and oftentimes people quite like playing for music that uses a melody and some chord symbols, or if you download some guitar tab off the internet, chances are you will see these chord symbols starting to appear, sometimes with the lyrics, sometimes with a notated melody. And when you see the symbol either D minor, like this, or sometimes you see D minus, although not so often, that's talking about this D minor chord. And so whatever you play on your instrument, whether it's the guitar or whether it's the piano, you're going to be using notes from this very basic triad.